Hello ZenZoners, welcome back to Pradeep's ZenZone. This is yet another video in our parenting series, Stop Yelling at Your Kids, or Prepare for the Tiny Monsters You've Created. But don't worry, we've given the right approach to handle your kids without yelling at the end of this video. As an honest dad, it took me a few years to realize this. Imagine this, it's a peaceful evening. You're drinking your tea, feeling like you've got everything under control. Suddenly, a loud scream echoes through the house. Nope, it's not a ghost, it's your child. And before you know it, your calm mood disappears and the yeller comes out. But let's pause and think about what really happens when you start yelling and why it might be turning your kids into little troublemakers right under your nose. How it all started for me. One day I thought I had everything under control. I yelled at my daughter for not doing her homework. The yell echoed, and her eyes grew as wide as saucers. But the next day, I found her sitting at the table, pencil in hand, ready to skip her homework again. This time, though, she had leveled up. With a mischievous smile, she looked at me and said, "Are you going to yell at me again, Dad?" That's when it hit me. Yelling wasn't working. In fact, it was making her bolder, like a mini supervillain in training. Kids transformation. Yelling doesn't just scare your kids, it transforms them. Imagine your adorable child morphing into a tiny, rebellious glitch who now sees yelling as a challenge rather than a warning. Every yell you dish out is like fuel for their tiny engines of mischief. How loud can I make Mom yell today? They think, plotting their next move like a mini mastermind. Psychology of yelling. Here's the scary part. Yelling doesn't just bounce off them like you wish it did. Studies show that frequent yelling can lead to anxiety, aggression, and even depression in kids. It's like casting a dark spell over them that takes years to break. So, every time you yell, imagine a little storm cloud hovering over their heads, growing darker with each shout. A real-life tale. Then there's me, thinking I was just encouraging my daughter with some loud yelling. One day, after a particularly intense pep talk, when I said, "This room better be spotless by the time I'm back," she looked at me with the serious, sharp gaze of someone who's planning something big. "I'm telling Grandma," she said, in a voice that sounded like she was about to change everything in the family. I realized that day, sometimes the most frightening thing isn't when your kids misbehave, it's when they turn the situation against you. I became the reason for my daughter's clever comeback. How I handled it? So, what's the alternative? Imagine instead of yelling, you try the whisper of doom. That's right. When they misbehave, you lean in close, whisper something vague and mysterious like, "We'll talk about this later." Trust me, the anticipation of what that might mean is scarier than any yell. Plus, it leaves you looking like the calm, in-control parent you always aspired to be. Next time you feel the yell bubbling up, remember, every yell is a gamble. Will you create a tiny monster, or will you keep your cool and stay the mastermind behind the scenes? The choice is yours. But remember, once the tiny monsters are out, there's no going back. So, let's ditch the yelling and raise our kids without the scares. After all, parenting should be more about love and less about fear. Unless you're talking about the fear of missing out on their bedtime stories, of course. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, Pradeep's ZenZone.